What have you done to deserve this? When evil spirits invade our lives, we want to understand why. What did we do? Was there something that we could have done differently? Did we make a mistake to cause this to happen? Was it my own fault? To understand this line of thinking, we can point to Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. We humans see this all around us, and it dictates much of our lives. When we say something hurtful to someone, it will result in emotional suffering for one or both of us. When we make an unwise investment decision, then we experience some sort of hardship. But when we apply Newton's third law to the spiritual world, it doesn't work nearly as well. Let's say you've discovered your spiritual gifts. Why do you have those? Did you do something in this life that created them? No, of course not. This was decided way before your birth. The same can be said for astral parasites. The majority of people who complain of evil spirit attachments don't have one particular incident that they can point to as the fatal moment when it all began. And even if they do, they hardly ever overlap with anyone else's experience. There are a few, however, that do repeat. One of those is pendulum and/or Ouija board use. Occasionally, when someone uses a pendulum for the very first time, they will have a profound experience. And from that moment on, they will begin to experience the symptoms of a negative entity. Yet another is the plant medicine ayahuasca. Or sometimes it's the introduction of a particular relationship into their lives, even for those starting to meditate for the first time. But are these things actually the cause? How about the idea of a mistake? Did you make a terrible decision in your life that you can point to as the reason you now have a negative entity attachment? Once again, we're used to identifying decisions that we make as either good or bad. The entire concept of a mistake requires that we judge something. That something we did was bad. The process of judgment is closing the mind to possibilities. It's just an argument. Someone says it's bad, someone else says it's good. Who's right? Have you heard the story of the Chinese farmer? A farmer and his son had a beloved horse who helped the family earn a living. One day the horse ran away, and their neighbors exclaimed, "Your horse is gone, what terrible luck!" The farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." A few days later the horse returned home, leading a few wild horses back to the farm as well. The neighbors shouted, "Your horse has returned and brought some with him! What great luck!" The farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." Later that week, the farmer's son was trying to domesticate one of the horses, and she threw him to the ground, breaking his leg. The neighbors cried, "Your son broke his leg, what terrible luck!" The farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." A few weeks later, soldiers from the National Army marched through the town, recruiting all boys for the military. They did not take the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. The neighbors shouted, "Your boy was spared, what tremendous luck!" To which the farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see." The point to this story is obvious. We cannot know, really until life is over, whether things that happen to us are bad or good. Even then, it can be impossible to know because we look at events in our lives without comprehending the entire picture. It's actually impossible to see it all from our limited perspectives. Let's expand this fable to attempt to see more of what that picture might have looked like. Thanks to the accident, the farmer boy learned to be more confident when working with new horses, and due to his new mindset, he was able to avoid a fatal kick to the head while training the next one. Or, while the farmer's son was recovering from his broken leg, he had plenty of time to think and became deeply appreciative of the simple act of walking. After he recovered, he was more fully able to embrace the simple things in life and enjoyed teaching others what he had learned. Before the accident, he had taken life for granted, and one of the people who heard his story realized that he had been taking life for granted himself. This was the catalyst moment that turned his friend into a philosopher and a teacher. He went on to teach students the lessons that the farmer boy had taught him and changed thousands of lives. The positive results of any one seemingly negative event in our lives is endless and unseeable. So why go into this story when talking about the event that might have caused your demonic possession experience to begin? Because the process to healing all that needs to be healed to rid yourself of astral parasites includes a mindset change. And that mindset change can begin by changing the way that you look at your negative entity experience itself. But let's go back to the why. Here are two powerful prerequisites for people to experience negative entity attachments. The number one requirement is that the individual is highly connected to the spirit world. They were born into this life with a mission to open their channel and connect, to receive insight, to administer healing, to do something magical. 2. They have had an emotionally challenging life. They were abused. They had traumatic experiences in childhood or as adults, maybe even PTSD or other mental emotional conditions. So far in my practice, every single person I've worked with has met both of these requirements with no exceptions. Occasionally, someone will tell us that they had no trauma or abuse, but at some point we discover that they actually have, but they managed to block it out. When both of these prerequisites are met, the actual incident is almost irrelevant. In other words, the negative entity experience would have happened eventually anyway, no matter what decisions were made. If you are highly connected to the spirit world and you are suffering from trauma, you have stored low-frequency emotions, which is a vibrational match for a low-frequency entity. So when that channel of yours is opened, through a pendulum, Ouija board, plant medicine journey, or even meditation, then what's going to come through? One that is a vibrational match to your energy. Everyone's healing journey is different, but we always discover that the appearance of the evil spirit was actually helpful. It helps them take the steps necessary to raise their vibration, step into their power, clear their energy field, and discover their spiritual gifts, which often happens. When their healing journey is complete, they can honestly say that they are grateful for their astral parasite experience because it brought them this unbelievable new life. If this seems difficult to imagine due to the immense suffering your attachment has brought, you aren't alone. Right now, it may seem impossible to bear, to overcome, to even exist for another day. But here you are, watching a video series to try to understand what's happening to you, with the intention to eventually resolve it for yourself. You still have hope. You know you can. But better than that, you know you will. Thank you for watching episode 4 of the 5-part Negative Entity series. In the last episode, you'll learn what you can do to clear, overcome, and rid yourself of negative entity attachments and keep them away for life.